Council President Hudson and Commissioner Canizaro are in attendance, so we have all board members present. And working through the agenda here, we have our public meeting notice, our proof of notice here. And behind that, we have our minutes from our September 26th, 2023 board meeting. It's been a while, so thankfully I've seen all of you since then, but not in this capacity. So we'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from September 26th, 2023. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, looks like we have two items under new business, so I'm going to turn it over to Meg to introduce them.
Thank you, Mayor. So the first resolution on the agenda, number 3459, it relates to several parcels that SURA sold in 2007 to Norman Swanson. The parcels are along South Krause and Harrison. They're now, after a re-subdivision, are known as 601 to 15 South Krause Avenue and Harrison Street, more commonly known as the Hotel Schuyler and Apartments. Actually, Mr. Swanson, the property is held and titled by an LLC that Mr. Swanson is a member of. He transferred right after SURA transferred the property to him in 2007. And so he's looking to sell the property, and his attorney reached out to me, and they're looking to terminate the redevelopment contract and certain deed restrictions, which just called for the property to be redeveloped. Didn't list a time frame within the deed, and it has been redeveloped. So if the board is so inclined, it's just a authorization to terminate the contract and those two deed restrictions.
Okay. Have any questions?
I have a lot going through my head, but Megan put it out. Because, again, so he's looking to sell the property,
That's my understanding.
and he redeveloped with that hotel, and what else?
I believe there's apartments there.
Well, yeah, I guess I'm not familiar with all of these properties. So Hotel Schuyler is just a hotel.
Okay.
But do we know if this includes additional, because there is an apartment building adjacent to it, but I don't know if that's part of it.
I thought, from my understanding, I did briefly, just to get, I wasn't familiar with all these properties. I did speak to Commissioner OJ last week.
Okay.
And it was my understanding that they're all on the same tax parcel, at least.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. So, okay, so assuming that we're talking about one tax parcel here, the purpose of the deed restrictions were to what exactly? To ensure redevelopment?
Yep, so if you look at the second page of the resolution, those are word for word what was in the deed restrictions. And
All right, I'm just going to read them for my benefit and everyone else's. So deed restriction at section 1A, which requires Swanson to carry out the terms, covenants, and conditions of and erect the improvements and or undertake the redevelopment contemplated in the redevelopment contract. And number 2, deed restriction at section 1C, which requires Swanson or his successors or assigns to commence renovations of any improvements contemplated in the redevelopment contract within a reasonable time after acquisition of the properties, and to contemplate such renovation and improvements within a commercially reasonable time after commencement. So I was in city government when this property was redeveloped, although it looks like not when this was converted. So did SURA used to own this property and they sold it to Mr. Swanson with these deed restrictions? Is that right?
yes, and they were very, very basic there. And at that time, because SURA's disposition policy has changed over the years, Common Council did also authorize.
Okay.
There was a public hearing held in 2006, I believe. I was looking through the old council books last week.
Wasn't here, but okay.
Yeah, neither was I at that time.
But so, so this was approved, the sale, not only the SURA board approved the transaction, but so did the Common Council in 2006.
So what's the timeline on the sale?
That I'm not aware of. They didn't share that with me.
Can we get that information, do you think?
I can reach out to the attorney.
But, I mean, let me ask you this. Do we get, if the purpose was to simply to ensure that the redevelopment took place, that was the purpose of the deed restrictions, and I'm looking at a picture of the property on there. I've been in there, it's completed. Would it be appropriate would there be a scenario where we would terminate the contract even if there wasn't a sale? In other words, could they make the claim that they had done what was required of them and they wanted to just simply get clean title?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen in the past too, for whatever reason, it didn't happen in this transaction. A certificate of completion the board would authorize after the redevelopment has been done. I looked through some of the old SURA books. I didn't see anything in there either.
Contingent on sale, okay.
Yeah, because those would have been most likely recorded in the county clerk's office too.
Okay.
So, I don't think they would be asking if any of that was done all those years ago. So,
Okay. Can you think?
Right.
I'm sorry. You good, Helen?
I'm sorry, Mayor, but typically this comes up. Yeah, the sale is what kind of forces
Right.
them to make this inquiry now rather than closer to the time that the redevelopment was completed.
Other questions? Is there any scenario where you would, where retaining these, the interest could produce any alternative outcome? Is there any value to the agency that you can see in not just simply terminating?
No, not that I can see, unless we thought for some reason that they didn't complete the redevelopment. I know that actually at the last meeting we had in September, I know it was a little bit ago, but we talked about, we released a right of reverter. Typically that is what SURA places rights of reverter in deeds. There wasn't one in this one that I saw. So there's nothing like that to contemplate.
Okay.
So unless I'm missing something, I don't really see any other
Yeah,
advantage for SURA to hold on to anything.
me neither. Any other questions?
My only comment on it would be so the deed restrictions were specific for development. I think that if there's a way to have assurances that this, obviously very unlikely, but doesn't become just cleared land.
Right.
That the developments are not materially altered or removed in a way that reverts back to what we didn't want to have. That's it.
Scenario in which you could, I think.
It's clearly unlikely given the value of the property, but just in the spirit of what the deed restrictions were put there in the first place for it, if there's a way to recognize and respect that. Just a point of discussion.
I'm not sure how else at this point to retain that, unless just not releasing.
I'm comfortable with it, but I'm one of 3 votes, so happy to entertain any other questions or otherwise a motion.
Just one more question. So is it gonna stay a hotel and apartments, or what we don't know?
That I don't know. If you want, I can go back and ask their counsel, so this can be conditional. If you were to choose to approve the resolution, we can make that approval conditional upon further information from their counsel
Right,
that I would
thank you.
report back to the board.
Thank you, because I really would like to know, once they get control of this property, what are they going to do with it?
Okay, so help us form that into a motion, Meg. Are we conditioning conditioning approval based on a specific use or based on clarification of proposed use, or?
Or also an alternative would be to hold it and come back next month. once I get more information, that is an alternative as well.
I would be more comfortable with holding it until we get more information.
Anybody give you, has anyone given you any indication of any level of urgency here?
Only that when I told them this would require board authorization, they asked how quickly afterwards they would receive the recordable documents, because the resolution wouldn't be recorded. I would typically have you mayor sign something as the resolution.
As fast as they can get us clarification.
Yeah, so, I mean, to that point, there's nothing stopping us from calling a meeting whenever we want, right?
Oh, yes, we could, as long as we had proper notice and
yeah.
timing and all that,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so we don't have to wait till our next regularly scheduled meeting if we found out they scheduled their closing for tomorrow based on an expectation that we were signing off on it today. Well, maybe not tomorrow, because again, proper notice, but you get the point.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So again, I wouldn't want to hold anything up, but I think if we have time, we should have clarity. So,
Okay.
so let's do that.
Okay, no problem.
Okay. What do we have next, Meg?
Okay, so the next resolution, 3460, it pertains to, so I think everybody here is aware, because the city and SURA have been getting the notifications from New York State DOT in conjunction with the I-81 project. They have selected different parcels, portions of some of those parcels that they've identified for the project that they've proceeded with eminent domain for the project. One particular parcel that SURA owns, it's 110 University Avenue. The state has actually already filed, so they own a portion of that parcel, and it's a vacant commercial lot is the classification. It's only 15 feet wide. It's very long and narrow, but so they only took a portion of it. So I've been speaking with DOT, and the compensation for SURA is $11,550, and that has been placed in an escrow account for us, and they need certain documentation, including the board resolution, W-9, an agreement for advance payment, and some other closing documents. And so this resolution is just authorizing Commissioner Collins as SURA's contracting officer to sign all that documentation, so the state can release the funds to SURA for taking the portion of 110 University.
Yeah, I think this is just taking a sliver of land for right-of-way, basically, right? Okay. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, any other business to come before the board? No?
I have nothing else, Mayor.
Okay. Entertain a motion to adjourn? All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.